So India and its neighbors. So we have 7 countries which are sharing borders with India. So we are calling them neighbors. So the borders can be either land borders or maritime borders, either maritime boundary. So when you are talking about the maritime boundary, Sri Lanka, right? We have the maritime boundary, but we do not have the land connect. Of course, we have Ramasetu, right? So other than Ramasetu, we have the maritime boundary. So these are called neighbors. And there is one country, right, which India claims it to be the neighbor, but the boundary or the border is inaccessible. So that is Afghanistan, because the boundary with the Afghanistan is in Pakistan occupied Kashmir, right? Because it is in the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, we do not have physical access to Afghanistan. That's why even for the trade, recently you might have seen in the news, right? The Pakistan has accepted to the transit from the Pakistan to trade with Afghanistan, right? Previously the Pakistan never allowed any of the goods to pass through Pakistan to enter into Afghanistan. So we had to travel through the sea route to the Iran, and from Iran, Chabahar port, from Iran we used to supply the goods to the Afghanistan, because we do not have any physical access, right? So only through the sea route we used to transport the goods and services, goods and materials, right? So these are the countries, these are the neighboring countries which we have. So we will see. Here, right? So India shares land borders with China, Bhutan, Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Myanmar. And here one of the important questions you might encounter, not in UPSC level but in the normal examinations, is that which country shares the largest border with India? Which country? The Bangladesh, right? The Bangladesh shares the largest boundary with India. This is the Bangladesh, right? And Bangladesh and Pakistan share both land borders as well as maritime borders. So another specific feature about the borders is that the Bangladesh and Pakistan share both the land borders as well as maritime borders, right? We have maritime borders as well, like this, right? Tibet is somewhere else. No, Tibet is China. We cannot say Tibet. Tibet itself is China, right? Or else we cannot say China as a border, right? Tibet is China, okay? And Sri Lanka shares only the maritime border. We know that. And India also recognizes about 106 kilometer stretch here, right? So here, right? So the Afghanistan border, right, where we are claiming, but it is totally inaccessible, right? This is totally inaccessible because of Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and this is Aksai Chin region, right? So because of this, we have these many countries as the borders. The first we will be dealing with the Pakistan when it comes to the neighbors. The first country we are going to deal is study the bilateral relationship between India and Pakistan, and the next one is Bangladesh, right? And the third one to be the Bhutan, and the fourth to be the Nepal, and fifth to be the Myanmar, or sorry, fifth to be the Sri Lanka, and sixth to be the Myanmar, and finally the China, right? In this order we will be studying, right? In this order we will be studying. Why we have chosen the Pakistan and the Bangladesh to be the first nations to discuss? Because they were a part of India. Because they were a part of India, so that's why we study first about Pakistan and Nepal. Sorry, Pakistan and Bangladesh, right? So the Bangladesh has the largest boundary, right? Largest boundary with India, the Bangladesh in the first place. Clear? So the next one, coming to India, Pakistan. So whenever we discuss about India or any other country bilateral relationships or India and its neighbors, the first thing which we focus is on historical aspects, right? The first thing we are going to discuss about the historical aspects between the two nations, because whatever the relationship we have with the other nations depends upon how historically we have progressed so far. So that's why we are going to study about the historical aspects of both the countries, and then we study about the issues between the two countries, right? So what problems exist between the two countries, and then we progress towards the solution, in the meantime discussing about the problems itself, and finally we're going to discuss about the trade, right? History and the present aspect problems, and next one, trade aspects between the two countries, right? Trade aspects between the two countries, and finally the culture, right? Finally the culture. In this order we are going to discuss. Okay? So in this way we are going to cover not the international relations but also post-independent India as well, and sometimes the pre-independent India as well, right? Because when you are talking about Pakistan, we are talking about modern India, right? Few events of modern India will be covered in international relations. Okay? And at the same time, so we are going to discuss about post-independent India. As we already discussed when we talk about the events, the Indian foreign policy, about the wars which has happened between India and the other country, that is post-independent, right? So all these aspects we are going to discuss in the bilateral relationships. Okay? So first, Pakistan. We start with the independence movement, right? The active form of independence movement has actually started with the establishment of the Indian National Congress, right? With the establishment of a political party, Indian National Congress, where all the elite Indians have come together and discussed about the future of India, or the future of Indians in the political structure of the Britain India, right? So we start from this. But before this event, so before this, there is one significant event which has changed the dynamics of Indian political structure, right? So that is 57 Sepoy Mutiny, right? So this event is very significant in the way such all the Muslims or the Hindus, irrespective of differences, they fought on the common grounds, right? They fought against the British or the East India Company as we speak, right? Because they have come onto the common grounds, so we have both the Hindus and the Muslims together, they have come and they proclaimed the Mughal emperor to be the supreme ruler, and they fought on his name. They fought against the British on his name, right? So whatever the indifferences we had, so they were all gone. But later they were structurally administered by the British divide and rule policy. Because immediately after 1857 Sepoy Mutiny, so they segregated everyone based upon the caste, based upon the religion, and there was different pay scale and the different emoluments, right? Everything was different. So to clearly structure that they are different from the other, so that actually created the divide between the Indian Muslims as well as the Indian Hindus, right? So structurally the British has destroyed the unity that exists between the India and Muslims, and then the problem started after Indian National Congress has actually been founded, right? The problem aggravated, but we have tried to form the common ground between the two, but because of the dominance of the Hindu society, because of the majority which we have, so because the Muslims thought that maybe our rights will not be addressed over here, the Muhammad Ali Jinnah had finally thought that we want to have a separate nation for our own, right? So this is how it has progressed. So the very first event which we're gonna recognize or acknowledge is 1857, and then in 1885 Indian National Congress was established, and in 1905 this has played a very significant role, because in the Bengal province was rich in the people who have the cognizance of what is happening in the nation, and they are the people who actually established many societies to address the inequalities the British is doing to the Indian society, right? They were the people who actually started, and the Bengal is a province where some part of an area is Muslim majority, where the other part is the Hindu majority. So to curb the equality or unity between the Bengal people, so they made the partition in 1905. We call it Bengal partition, right? We call it Bengal partition. They have divided Bengal into West Bengal and East Bengal. The East Bengal is present Bangladesh, West Bengal is in India, right? The West Bengal is Hindu dominant or Hindu majority, whereas East Bengal is Muslim majority, right? So because they were united together and they were fighting on the common grounds, the British wanted to divide that, and they have done the partition in 1905, right? We call it Bengal partition, right? Done by Lord Curzon, right? Bengal partition by the Lord Curzon, right? And in 1906, immediately after the partition, a new party was actually established, All India Muslim League, right? All India Muslim League, this is the political party that was established, right, in the Bengal by the men of property and influence, right? Only the rich and affluent people, right, have the right to voice their opinion. The other people, they don't even have the franchise. They don't even have the right to vote, right? So they have come together and they formed the All India Muslim League in India for the political representation based on separate electorates for Muslims and Hindus. So the main objective is for the separate electorate for Hindus and Muslims. What do you mean by separate electorate? They are not asking for reservations. Reservations are different and separate electorate is different. Right? Pune Pact between Ambedkar and as well as Gandhi. Right? It is about whether the separate electorate has to be given to the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes or the reservations are to be given. Finally, as for the Pune Pact, the Ambedkar has compromised for the reservations.
Your father is waiting for you. Rakesh sir is misleading me that you are not attending the UPSC class. Go on meeting. All you know. That's why I came for verification whether she is there or not. I came for UPSC call. Phone the call. Sorry sir.
Yes, ma'am. Right? The separate electorate means only the Muslims vote for Muslims. That is what separate electorate means. For the Muslim seats, only Muslims will vote. That is separate electorate. So technically, if you are reserving a seat for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe or women, that means this from this constituency, only women has to be elected. So for that woman, everyone, men, women and everyone will be voting irrespective of the religion. Now, as for the reservations, right? So among the women competitors, you will be selecting one women competitor. So that woman can be the Muslim, that woman can be the Christian, that woman can be the Hindu, a Buddhist or any religion. Irrespective of the religion, if you are reserving a particular seat, everyone will vote. Right? So, but separate electorate is in the sense, so if you are saying this has a separate electorate, only the Muslims will vote and elect a Muslim. The others will not participate. That is what separate electorate means. So for entire Muslims, elections will be different. Right? That means among the Muslims, only Muslims will be voting. Right? And they will only elect the leader. That is the separate electorate. Right? Reservations, right? Muslim reservations, even Hindus will vote. Right? So it is not like only Muslims will vote. That is the difference between reservations and separate electorate. They are asking for the separate electorate for the Hindus and Muslims. That means all the Hindus will be voted by the Hindus, all the Muslims will be voted by the Muslims. Right? That is the separate electorate. That was asked in 1906. Right? And separate electorates were considered by the government in 1909. Right? 1909, Morley Minto reforms. 1909, Morley Minto reforms. Right? In those reforms, a separate electorate to the Muslims was given. Right? In the Morley Minto reform, separate electorate for the Muslims is given in 1909, Morley Minto reforms. Right? And later, Montague-Clenfold reforms. Right? 1919. Right? We will see. Right? In 1992. So there is an attempt at forging a permanent Hindu-Muslim nationalist political alliance. So rather than divide and fight against the common enemy, it is always better to get united. And remember in 1911, the Bengal was reunited. The partition of Bengal happened in 1905, right? And it was reunited in 1911. Okay? And so in 1919 and 1992, after the Montague-Clenfold reforms, we want the representation. So representation has slightly increased in 1919, Montague-Clenfold reforms, right? In this, so we have attempted to forge the permanent Hindu-Muslim bond, but the Jinnah views this approach as too radical, breaks the Gandhi and resigned from the Congress. So he thought it is too radical, right? So because in 1919 there is one other event that has happened is Khilafat movement, right? Khilafat movement, right? So the proponent of separate nation for the Muslims, the Muhammad Ali Jinnah, right? He was a secular, right? He was never a religious person. He was a secular person. And the Congress, the Indian National Congress or the Gandhi supporting the Khilafat movement is against the interests of the nation because the religion should not come, right? Because of this, his approaches. So finally he resigned from the Congress party, right? And in 1923 and 28, so after the suspension of the non-cooperation movement, it has led to the competition between the Hindus and Muslims for the seats, right? For the elections, So immediately after, during the non-cooperation movement, everyone came onto the same platform. But immediately after the suspension of the non-cooperation movement, now for the elections, there was a competition between the Hindus and the Muslims were defeated so much. Right? The Muslims did not get any representation. Right? So because of this, the ideas of Muhammad Ali Jinnah that the Muslim political views or the Muslim views can be addressed only when there is a separate nation. Right? In India, with a majority of Hindus, it is highly improbable for the Muslims to voice out in the elections. Right? So that was at all the levels, there is increase in communal rights, because in the new provinces, so we do not get any seats, right? And the Muslim leaders began to move away from the Congress and comes under mounting pressure from the Hindu interest organization not to make concessions to the Muslims in the political demands. And because they are not getting any seats already, and because of the pressures that are happening, and because the Muslims want to move away from the Congress, the conservationist Hindus within the Congress, right, they never wanted to make any concessions for the Muslims. Even they put so much of pressure onto the government that, so because they are not coming onto us, why should we give something to them? Right? Why should we think about the others? You are about to say something. You did not get anything. See, so in 23 and 28, during this particular time, after the suspension of the non-cooperation movement, so whatever the competition between the Hindus and Muslims for the representation has actually renewed. So during the renewal of this, in the new political provincial councils, right? Initially we have the provincial councils only in the Bengal, the Bombay, and as well as in the Calcutta, right? Calcutta, Bengal, as well as Madras, right? And later the new provinces were created. So in the new provinces there is a competition now, the fresh competition. So who will get the votes, right? So because of this, there were many communal clashes during that particular time, right? And also the Muslim leaders, because of the communal clashes and because they thought that the voice is not being met as much as it has to be, so they started to move away from the Congress. So once they started to move away from the Congress, even the Congress was like, why to make reservations for them? So why to ask for these people, right? So we will not think about the Muslims at all. So that was the attitude, right, back then. Yes, yes. But in the rest of the places as well, right? So the Muslim voice has to be there, right? So for that purpose, okay? And in 35 and 39, during the time of 35 and 39, so under the increasing pressure, the British government passed a legislature conceding a significant measure of self-government to the provinces in India, right? 1935, Government of India Act of 1935. Most of the Indian constitution was derived from Government of India Act of 1935, right? So in 1935, it has significantly increased the proportion of self-representation, because during the First World War, the British promised that they will give dominion status to India, and they did not give, right? So in 1935, right? In 1935, because there was too much of pressure from the Indians, so they had increased the representation of Indians in the government, right? So after this has happened, the elections that has followed, right? In the elections that has followed, there is a huge defeat to the Muslims, right? So under an extended through still limited franchise and the maintenance of the separate electorate and the Hindus and the Muslims, the Muslim League fares badly, securing less than 5% of the total Muslim votes cast, and is unable to hold power in any of the Muslim majority provinces, right? Even though there is a separate electorate, so none of the Muslims voted, right? So the Muslims have failed, Muslim League has failed very badly, securing less than 5% of the total Muslim vote, right? So because of this, in 1940, immediately after the defeat, right, in the Lahore session, the sessions are important for sometimes UPSC as well as in any of the state or the central government examinations, because at every year they used to conduct a session, the Congress session or the All India League. So all the political parties or the leaders come together and they address the gathering or they take some resolutions. The resolutions are important, the sessions are important, and the years, right? You have to remember. So in 1940, in the Lahore session, the Muslim League has put forward the two-nation theory. That was the first time. That was the first time in 1940 the Muslim League has put forward that we want a separate nation for our own kind, right, for our own Muslims, right. So the first two-nation theory was proposed in 1940, right. So after he has put forth the resolution or the need for a separate nation, so there were many missions that has happened, cabinet mission plan, right. So of that, so to make sure they give independence, because after the World War II, so definitely the British is not in a position to rule India, right. And also there was a revolt across all the nations that the colonialism has to be arrested at any cost, right. So because of the immense pressure that was put forth on the British, and because it was not in a position to rule such a vast land area, so it has no other choice but to give independence, right. So during the independence, the only problem that existed is how to give independence, right, how to transfer the power from the British to the India. So during that time, the two major political parties, the Congress and All India Muslim League, so these are the two, right, Indian National Congress and All India Muslim League. So these are the only two political parties representing whole of Indian people, the Hindus and the Muslims, right. So there were no consensus between the India and Pakistan initially till 1946, right. So after 1946, after Mountbatten has come, so he has proposed the partition plan, right, where you will be given the separate nation to Pakistan, right. But the problem between India Pakistan, right, has arose in this, because the transfer of power was supposed to happen in 1948, right. The transfer of power was supposed to happen in 1948, but immediately after the two-nation theory was proposed, there were communal clashes in different places of India. There were communal clashes in different parts of India, and the British did not want the blood onto their own hands. So within the 2 months frame, they said we are going to transfer the power, and they have demarcated the boundaries within just 2 months, which was supposed to happen the next year. Just in 2 months they said we are going to transfer the power, and this is the Pakistan. So because of this hasty approach of British, right, so the people, about 15 million people were displaced from their own lands. 15 million, that is the largest human migration, one of the largest human migrations in the history of the entire world, right. 15 million people, right, have to migrate across the borders, right, across the borders, right. So that thing happened. So immediately after the partition has happened, right, there is human crisis. So we have the huge refugee camp in Delhi. So despite all that, in 1947, the partition is seen as the only solution. Oh, I have already discussed. Okay. So to be taken in just 2 months, right. So the next one. So we'll see the few facts of the partition. What actually happened in the partition, right. So in 1941, Karachi, the first capital of Pakistan, had about 46% of the Hindu population, right. The Karachi which is present now, it had about 46% of the Hindu population. So imagine how many Muslims had to move from how many Hindus had to move from the Pakistan across India, and all the trains which were traveling, so there was huge carcass, and that means huge corpse that were actually moving rather than the people, and many people died during the movement as well, right, suffocation, or because of the communal rights in between, right. And the people used to travel on the trains as well, not just within the trains. Because of the suffocation many died, and because of the communal violence many died. It is like the corpses are moving across India and out of India. It was that kind of a case, right. And around the same time, Delhi's entire population, including 1/3 of the Muslims, and most whom were displaced in 1947, about 1/3 of the Muslims in Delhi had to move again to the Pakistan, and the borders of the Pakistan were drawn up in just in 2 days after the partition, right. So the borders of India and Pakistan were just made within 2 days. That's why we had many problems, right. And at least 15 million people were uprooted and displaced, right, displaced in one of the largest human migrations recorded in the history, and around 1 to 2 million people were killed during the implementation of the partition, right. About 1 to 2 million people died, right. So 1 million is 10 lakhs. So 10 lakhs to 20 lakh people died only because of the migration between India. Imagine in the scale of the population then, right? It was a few million. It was not billion. To think about few millions is fine, right? It was about 500 million or something. That's all, not more than that. So among that, these many people died, right? And Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the man behind the creation of Pakistan, was a secularist. And immediately after creating the Pakistan, he in the All India in the radio he has said the mistake he has done was creating the Muslim Pakistan. But the voices of Muhammad Ali Jinnah never came out of Pakistan. It was never documented. It was a secret because the people do not want the speech to come out because he is a secular, whereas the Pakistan was formed on the grounds of religion. And as Hindu, Muslim and Sikh vigilantes heard all sides killing, the British soldiers were confined to their barracks. The British soldiers never participated in controlling the mob, right? The British barracks were ordered by the Mountbatten to save only the British lives, right? So literally whatever happened, whatever the problems India is facing, that is a result of the British, right? On August 14, just hours before the Nehru speech, the Great Raid has broken into the streets of Lahore, which has killed, whereas 1 lakh people were trapped in the fire without water, food, anything, right? And the Radcliffe, the line between India and Pakistan was drawn by Sir Radcliffe, right? We call it Radcliffe line. We call it Radcliffe line, and please do remember these are the most important things. These are the most important things. Radcliffe line. Radcliffe line. This is Radcliffe. India, Pakistan, Radcliffe. And India, China. India, China, McMahon. McMahon line. India, China, McMahon line. India, China, McMahon line. And Pakistan, Afghanistan is Durand line. It is Durand line, which was drawn. The boundary between Pakistan and Afghanistan was drawn in 1914, Shimla Agreement. Right? 1914 Shimla Agreement. Right? The boundary between the British India and the Afghanistan after Second Anglo-Afghan War was actually drawn by Sir Durand, and it is called Durand line. Right? So what are the two lines? What is the boundary between India and the Pakistan? What is the line between India and Pakistan? Radcliffe line. India and China, McMahon line. And India and Pakistan and Afghanistan, Durand line. So these are the three lines. You have to remember. So it is one of the important prelims question. Right? It is one of the important prelims question. Please do remember that. Right? Sir Radcliffe, the British lawyer, has drawn the borders of the newly independent Pakistan, which were completed on August 17, and Attlee, right, was the British Prime Minister who had transferred the powers, right, the Prime Minister Attlee, right. So immediately after the independence, a news reporter has asked Attlee, the Prime Minister of British, saying that did Mahatma Gandhi, they have given the freedom, is it because of Mahatma Gandhi? And he said no, he doesn't have any influence on that. But the reason why he has given the independence or transfer of the power is the mostly kind of because of Subhash Chandra Bose, because of the international pressure and because of the nationalistic features he has imbibed in the Indians. The many people started moving from the Royal Bengal Army or the British Army to India, right? Because of that, without the support of Indians, the country like a smaller country like the British cannot rule India, right? And such a large, vast amount of population, right? And until 1948, the Pakistan used the Indian currency banknotes because we have given the money. Until they printed their own currency, they have used our currency, right? So these are the few facts. And the very first thing, the war between India and the Pakistan in 1947. I am not talking about the problems of the migration, by the way. It is the war that has been fought on the issue of Kashmir in 1947. The very first war of India and the Pakistan is not because of migrations, right? It is on the issue of Kashmir, right? So because we already know the history of Kashmir, right? Because it is not once or twice. About, yeah? Till now it is continuing, but we have discussed about more than 20 times within the class, right? So everyone knows it, right? And there are a few people who do not know, so I'll tell for them, right? So we have about more than 500 provinces, sorry, princely states, right? After 1858, right? After 1858, after Sepoy Mutiny, so the British has proclaimed, or the Queen has proclaimed that, so none of the territories will be seized, right? Because one of the main reason why the Sepoy Mutiny has happened is doctrine of lapse, right? And subsidiary alliance. So doctrine of lapse and subsidiary alliance, right? Initially subsidiary alliance, later changed to doctrine of lapse, right? So when you're talking about subsidiary alliance is such a thing. Subsidiary alliance is such a thing that you rule your territory, but it will be under my control, right? Any kingdom which signs the subsidiary alliance, so that kingdom is protected by East India Company, right? That kingdom has to be protected by East India Company, and to maintain the army, the kingdom has to pay, and no person other than that of the British are to be established in the court. And if it wants to maintain the relationship with the other nation, with the other kingdom, so they have to first inform East India Company, right? So because of all this thing, and if they are not, because of protecting the empire, because they had to pay some amount to the East India Company, if it is not able to pay, they can cede their territory. So because of all these rules, obviously you are the king, but you do not have any rights, right? You do not have the power. And doctrine of lapse, so the most of the territories were seized through the subsidiary alliance, right? When it comes to the doctrine of lapse, so doctrine of lapse is applicable to the kings or the queens who do not have a legal heir, right? That means, so without being a child born, husband died or the wife died and the king doesn't want to marry anyone. So under that they do not have a legal heir who will inherit the empire or the kingdom, right? So under those circumstances, you have to take permission from the East India Company. The East India Company has to approve the adopted son. Under what condition? The conditions are not clear, right? Because of this, right, Jhansi Lakshmi Bai, right? So there was a tussle between the kings as well as the East India Company, so which has resulted in the Sepoy Mutiny. One of the reasons for the Sepoy Mutiny, there are many reasons. One of the reasons is this, and the Queen has come and it has abolished the East India Company's rule, right? So East India Company's rule, and Queen has proclaimed that I am gonna rule now, the good days are come, your troubles I have seen, right? But there is no difference, right? But Queen has proclaimed and said that no territory will be under the control of British now until you voluntarily want to do so. The rest of the countries, whatever the laws that are passed, that are in the provinces, not in the princely states, until they adopt so, right? Until they adopt so. So that's why all the princely states were ruled by their own kings, and the British could give independence only to the provinces ruled directly under the control of British, right? So immediately after the transfer of power happened, so there is a question of princely states whether they wanted to be a part of India, Pakistan, or to be independent, right? All the princely states has three options: either they can be a part of India, or they can be a part of Pakistan, or they can be independent. It was at that time the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the Iron Man of India, has come forward and negotiated the deal between all the princely states and made them part of India, other than three, right? Junagadh, Hyderabad, Jammu and Kashmir, right? So Junagadh, Hyderabad and Jammu and Kashmir. Hyderabad was taken by the military force, by force, right? And Junagadh by the plebiscite, where all the people voted to be a part of India, and Kashmir wanted to be independent. Kashmir wanted to be independent, and when the question of Kashmir has actually come, When the question of Kashmir has actually come, it said, I want to be independent, and we respected the sovereignty. But immediately after the independence, few tribes, right, with arms have entered into Jammu and Kashmir to occupy the entire territory to the Pakistan. Right? The Pakistan, the first Indo-Pak war brought over Kashmir, the fought after the armed tribesmen from the Pakistan, Northwest Frontier Province, Lakshars. Right? We know Lakshar-e-Taiba, terrorist organization. Right? Lakshars. Right? Who are the tribes? Pashtun and Tanoli tribes from the Pakistan. They have come with the arms to occupy Jammu and Kashmir. When they came to the Jammu and Kashmir to occupy, the Jammu and Kashmir Raja Hari Singh has asked India for help, right? And immediately Nehru, being the foreign minister and the prime minister, right, he said, so we will help you, but you have to sign the instrument of accession, right? You have to sign instrument of accession that you are going to be the part of India, right? At that time, given the special privileges to the Jammu and Kashmir, Article 370 was to be drafted, right? So that was initially given to the same chief architect of the constitution, right, which he denied, and later given to some other person, I don't know the name, right, and Article 370 was included in the constitution, given the special privileges to Jammu and Kashmir. And since that time, Jammu and Kashmir has been the part of India, right? So in this, why Nehru has accepted for the referendum? So the Raja Hari Singh has signed the instrument of accession provided after the Pakistanis or the tribes were thrown out of the Jammu and Kashmir, a referendum has to be conducted and let the people decide whether they want to be a part of India or independent, right? So a referendum has to be conducted. But in that case, why did Nehru accept for the referendum? Why should the plebiscite be conducted? Right? So that is one of the questions where the Nehru was actually criticized. Right? So the reason why the Nehru has accepted was, the Nehru was damn sure that the people of Jammu and Kashmir always wanted to be a part of India. So if at all the referendum had been conducted at that time, definitely the Pakistan wouldn't get Jammu and Kashmir. The reason you can see in 1965. So the answer to the question lies in 1965, when the Pakistanis has infiltrated into the Jammu and Kashmir and they wanted Indian people to fight against India. So what happened? They failed, right? So till 1965 also the trust of Jammu and Kashmir people lies with India, right? Or else India wouldn't have had the Jammu and Kashmir, right? So the answer lies in 1965, right? So we are very sure that Jammu and Kashmir people supports India. That's why Nehru has accepted for that, for the referendum. Definitely he is very sure that we are going to get Jammu and Kashmir, right? So that's why he has accepted the referendum. But immediately United Nations has come into the picture, where the Nehru has written the letter to the United Nations, right? And United Nations has come and it has given the UN resolution, right? So immediately there has to be ceasefire. United Nations Security Council, right? So immediately there has to be ceasefire across the border, right? And immediately after the ceasefire, so the first condition is that the Pakistan has to demilitarize the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Pakistan has to demilitarize Pakistan occupied Kashmir. And the second condition, provided the security forces are withdrawn by the Pakistan, India can maintain the troops for the defensive purposes. India can maintain the troops for the defensive purposes, and provided the first and second condition was satisfied by the UNSC, and then the referendum, the plebiscite has to be conducted. Let the people decide. So provided the first condition and second condition, you understood first and second condition? First condition, Pakistan has to move out. And second condition, India can maintain the troops in the entire Kashmir so that there won't be any aggression from the Pakistan again, right? And provided both are satisfied, right? And conduct a plebiscite, go for elections, let the people decide, right? So in that way, it has given UN resolution. UN resolution. But Pakistan never demilitarized Pakistan occupied Kashmir, so we never conducted referendum. We never conducted a plebiscite. Right? So the problem is still continuing. The problem with the Pakistan is still continuing in the question of Jammu and Kashmir.
So recently we raised the question in
Every time, every United Nations General Assembly, there will be a discussion on Jammu and Kashmir. Right? In every General Assembly meetings. Right? So that is the first conflict. The next conflict has actually started in 1965. Right?
Even though they have decided their own borders in just in 2 months, then why again they are coming into Kashmir?
They wanted the territory because it is independent. And it is not
Their
a,
border.
no, irrespective of that, so they wanted to militarily obtain the Jammu and Kashmir because of the strategical advantages they have. Right?
Yes, sir. But the thing is of border, na, sir. Earlier they have decided that.
No, not they have decided, some third party person has decided, but if you are talking like that, we have included Hyderabad as well by force, we have accepted Daman and Dayu, Goa, right? We have forcefully obtained it. So we cannot question really that, but the only thing we can question is, so after signing the instrument of accession, they do not have any right on Jammu and Kashmir, but they are not accepting it.
Sir, Acharya Singh is given to our territory is Indian. Sir.
Yes.
No, again, sir, they
Arey yaar, if you are asking that question, so what should China do? So you should ask the same question to China, but we are not able to negotiate that these are our lands. Right? That is how the international conflicts start, right? That is how the international conflicts start. It is not like, arey yaar, how many of you were from the village or from the villages? You know, the small, what do you say, the palm leaves. The palm leaf partition will be there. If the palm leaf partition crosses just 1 foot away from the actual, the fight happens between the two families. And they won't even stop. Right? They won't even stop. Even for the centuries they will continue. And you're talking about two nations here. So obviously there is no, see, the greater the geographical area, it is always better to the nation. And the areas which are strategically important against some other country, because the Pakistan perceived India to be the enemy nation. So obviously it will try to occupy any of the grounds. And if you're talking like that, so what about 1999? Kargil war. They entered into India. 1965, they entered into India. Sir, how without visa they came, sir? If you ask me, how can I answer? Right?
The thing is, he signed that instrument.
Yes.
Instrument of accession. But in proof we can show, na, this is our.
Arey yaar, we are showing the proof to everyone. What is the use? The conflict will still be there because you are not accepting it. Right? See, the same thing. Only the people who have visa are to be entered. Right? Without visa, many entered, na?
Still,
Right?
in Jammu and Kashmir they will be staying for months to prepare for a war. Yes, earlier it was in news.
Exactly. But how will you say, show your Aadhaar card? How do we know that? You know, you have to think in the larger scale. Think in the larger scale, not in the domestic scale. So two nations, right? The World War II happened. So the World War II happened is because they thought the Jews ought to be only because of the Jews, the other people are having the problem, so that's why eliminate the Jews. Why can't you tell them they are only humans, why to kill? So is there no other person who can actually negotiate or tell Hitler that they are also human beings like us, please leave them? It won't, the conflicts happen because one party is so adamant that he doesn't want to believe. Right? And India has been trying to solve the issue since these many years. Not because India doesn't have proofs. Because the Pakistan is not accepting. Right? And when the Bangladesh was created, we told, right, India was the first country to accept Bangladesh to be the independent nation. What if India did not accept Bangladesh to be the independent nation? The conflict, right? So China is also not accepting the boundaries of India. That's why he is saying it is my land. Because it is not accepting, not because the proofs aren't there. Right? If you want to negotiate a deal, simply to put, if really India wanted to give, to solve the issue, it can say, okay, I accept the Kashmir is yours. It can also say, right? Exactly the same thing. Right? To really solve the issue of Kashmir between India and the Pakistan, it can simply say, India can simply say that, yes, the Kashmir is yours. It can say. Exactly. So you have the reason why the Pakistan will not also accept. See? For the same reasons. Why India won't leave, the Pakistan also won't leave the Kashmir for the same reasons. Right? So it is not like a simple thing. How can it do it? No, there is no such kind of an answer. Right? Yes. It has to, because we have gone for the United Nations. Right? And it is the resolution given by the United Nations Security Council. Now we do not have to follow. So whenever the Kashmir is actually asking India to go for plebiscite, we are saying, as per the Shimla agreement, no third party can entertain, no third party voice can be entertained. If you have a problem, come and sit and talk. Now we don't. Right? Whatsoever. Right? It is saying, so all my dear countries, please see India and Kashmir. And we are saying, none of your business, please do your work. This is what India is telling, right? So if you have a problem, you come and talk to me. Yes? Yes, we could. The same thing happened, Lal Bahadur Shastri. Right? During the time of Lal Bahadur Shastri, we have occupied the vast amount of land and the strategic points. But in the Tashkent Declaration, we said, okay, fine. The pre-war line to follow again. Right? We could. But India is a peace-loving nation, remember. We do not want to aggravate the problem. We want to solve the problem. Right? But the Pakistan is not willing to listen. Right? There is so much of state-sponsored terrorism. Right? So because of that reason. So if you are non-violent, if the other person is violent, you will get all the slaps. Obviously, right? So the same thing happening with India.
So what is the wish of the people from Kashmir?
Difficult to say. It is extremely difficult to talk about the wish of the people.
That much is there, I would say.
Huh?
That much is there.
You wouldn't know, right? You are not in Kashmir. Because even I cannot speak of the wish of Kashmiri people. Right? Because in the news channel, everybody in India sits and talks. How many Kashmiri people are there in the panel? In the discussion panel?
So they are not coming also.
What they are not coming? Why can't you bring? They'll come. Alright? But the problem in the Kashmir is much more bigger than this. Right? Because bigger than what we speak. Right? Because since the past many years, the idea of separatism have actually been inculcated by the politicians of Kashmir. Right? So they always were told that you were different, the India is not doing enough. Right? So because of that, there are a few people who doesn't want to be a part of India, but that voices we should not count. Right? That voices. Even in the northeastern territory, the people are saying that we don't want to be the part of India, we want to autonomously govern on our own regions, right? Right? But that doesn't mean that, oh, people want it, okay, give it. We cannot do that. We cannot, right? That's why we say, the India is federal with a strong center, the quasi-federal structure of India. We have statehood with indestructible union. This is what we say, right? The quasi-federal, the feature of Indian constitution. It is quasi-federal. It has indestructible union. Even if all you people are protesting against India, that we want a separate nation, you will not get. You will not get. Right? So when it comes to that element, you will not get. But you can change the geographies. Right? Telangana people, we don't want to be united Andhra. What happened? Okay, take Telangana. That can be formed. Article 3. Article 3, that can be formed. But I want separate Andhra. Go and die. We won't give.
So if amendment happens,
No amendment. Right? Amendment is the, what do you say, the final resort.
but they mentioned that sir, if amendment happens, it can be.
Yes, it can be. But that has to be the last resort. Right? It is not like that they are asking, let us pass an amendment bill and let us see. No. It won't. Right? It won't happen. It is an indestructible union. Right? The sovereignty of India cannot be questioned. Right? India will be India, that's all. Right? But maybe in the future, if this is what happened with the China, right? The package proposal which I said. The package proposal, it has occupied accession region and a few areas in the then Uttar Pradesh, and it said, I want Arunachal Pradesh. Right? You take this, I'll take that. Right? So if we had agreed to that, there had been a constitutional amendment. Now Arunachal Pradesh is not there in the map. The a larger portion of Arunachal Pradesh wouldn't be there. Right? It is easy. It is easy to say that, but think about the scale of India, right, and the politicians, because the few people are representing the interests of the larger whole of Indian population. Hardly 543 people, right, representing 1.3 billion people. Right, remember at that scale, right, not amendment is not, amendment you can, but what about the interests of the people, of the rest of the place? Just because few people are asking for it, so union you cannot destroy. Yes? Yes? Whose part?
It is the part of Pakistan, sir. We have constitution there. We have nothing there, sir.
I did not understand. Please tell me again.
So that Pakistan occupied Kashmir.
Yes?
It is been government by the people of Pakistan, sir.
Yes?
Then how could it be the part of India, sir?
Because, remember, you have a house. I am staying there. Right? Documents are yours. But I am staying there. And it is my right. So will you leave your house? Just because I am staying there? Exactly. Why should we leave? Right? I am arranging whatever I want within the house I am staying. Right? So one day fridge will be in the hall, one day fridge will be in the bathroom, as per my wish. Right? I will rearrange everything. I will govern within the territory. But the land documents are yours. But because I am staying, I cannot say it is my land. What? But think about India. War is not a resort. Because, remember, many people, because of the same way in the conflict we can talk. So, if you go to some court, right? If you go to some court, so how long do you have to move around the courts to get the verdict that the house is yours? And for 70 years I have stayed there. The war is also such a kind of a thing. You don't know when it will end. Or you have no assurance that you will get the land back also. And here we have a supreme body, United Nations Security Council, which is restricting two countries from fighting. Right? Because the body is solely created to prevent another world war. So if you start fighting with another country and within underline nuclear countries, right, that may result in the nuclear war, the world war. Right? So it is not as simple as you think. That's why I am saying, right? The problems are much more complex. Then you can simply say, why can't we go and take it? Right? We have a Facebook or a Facebook meme back then. Right? If all the Indians collectively start walking towards Pakistan, right? So within few days, the Pakistan will be India. Right? 1.3 billion people walking towards Pakistan. Right? So it will be, but that is not a solution, right? So we have to find a solution in a diplomatic way, right? The solution has to solve the problem but not create new problems, right? We have to find, that is the reason why we are taking that long time, why we are trying to have dialogue with the Pakistan, right? Not because India involved and liberated Pakistan from Pakistan. Remember this. The Bangladesh is not a small territory, right? India involved and liberated Bangladesh from Pakistan, such a large territory. So why can't India just occupy the Pakistan occupied Kashmir? It is not that. It is not about occupying. It is about the dialogue and the future relationship you have with the neighboring nation. Right? So that is more important. The peace and security is more important rather than the interests like the territory has to be occupied at any cost. Okay? So that is not the question here. Clear? Everyone? Okay. So, just a minute. Hello? Yes, sir. Oh, wonderful, sir. Thank you. Library is ready. Please use it. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Sure. I'll collect the keys. Thank you. Okay. Huh?
అందరికి ఏం అడుగుతున్నాడు సార్ వాడు
Hostlers.
అదే సార్ సార్ రియల్లీ ఓన్ సార్ అవసరం సార్
Ozone Urbana people, library is ready.
For example,
Okay, we'll continue. 1965. So India has fought the second war 1965 because in 1962 India has gone for another war, right, with the China. And the India to be the weaker nation, the notion of India to be the weaker nation was perceived by Pakistan and it wanted to test India. So that's why it has started the attack on the Sir Creek or Run of Kutch. Right? Initially it has started the slight kind of a war in the Run of Kutch region to see the India's reaction. So India has reacted very softly to it. Very softly to it. Right? It did not take it very seriously. So the notion of India to be the weaker nation was confirmed by the Pakistan and they started the operation Gibraltar. Right? They started the operation Gibraltar where the people of the armed forces infiltrate into the Jammu and Kashmir and they instigate the people to fight against the government of India. Right? That is operation Gibraltar. Right? So because of that infiltration, the Indian armed forces has to move there and finally to kill all the people of Pakistan and finally to throw away Pakistan from the Indian mainland. Right? That was the first success of India, right, on the Kashmir as we are speaking. Right? So the, what do you say, elegance of Jammu and Kashmir people towards India exists in 1965. Right? That is the reason why we could win. Or else we could never win against the operation Gibraltar. Right? The conflict begins after the clash between the border patrols in the Run of Kutch region and accelerated in August 5th when about 26,000 to 33,000 Pakistani soldiers crossed the ceasefire line dressed in Kashmiri locals crossing into Indian administered India. So remember about 26,000 and 33,000, that many people coming into Jammu and Kashmir and staying and trying to instigate the violence against Indian government. How would that be? So how do you know who is Jammu and Kashmir person or Pakistani? Right? The reason we could actually succeed in that is because of the elegance of the Jammu and Kashmir towards India, not because of any other reason. Right? So that is Operation Gibraltar. Right? That is Operation Gibraltar. Right? So it was code name for the military operation launched by Pakistan military in Indian administered part of Kashmir. The objective was to infiltrate the line of control and instigate the local population to fight against Indian government, right? Which they have miserably failed. Miserably failed, right? The operation was a disaster as local population did not revolt and the infiltration was discovered. This led to the outbreak of 65 Indo-Pakistan war, the second war with the Pakistan, right? Second war with the Pakistan is because of Operation Gibraltar. Next one, Tashkent Declaration, right? After the war, we have occupied the strategic positions, right? And our Lal Bahadur Shastri, the then Prime Minister of India, so he went to Tashkent, right? The Russia, which has mediated between India and the Pakistan, right? Mediated the dialogue between India and the Pakistan. So when they went to Tashkent, so they have accepted to come to the pre-war positions, right? They accepted to come to the pre-war positions, right? According to the declaration, India and Pakistan agreed to pull their forces back to the pre-conflict positions, pre-1965 positions, right? Pre-war positions, right? And they also agreed not to interfere in the internal matters of each other, and they agreed to discourage propaganda against each other and encourage friendly discourse, right? And they agreed to restore economic cooperation between two nations. And although viewed as a success at that time, the Indo-Pakistani problem still persists, and the Tashkent Declaration was criticized in India because of omission of no war pact, right? We did not put there should not be any war between India and Pakistan, and also it was hugely criticized by the people of India as well as the opposition party as well as the leading party as well, because the strategic positions that were occupied by the Indian soldiers were to be given back to Pakistan, right? So that is Tashkent Declaration. Tashkent Declaration. The next one, 1971, right? 1971 we call it Bangladesh Liberation War. 1971 we call it Bangladesh Liberation War. Do you want to wash your face? Right? The next one is Bangladesh Liberation War. So we already discussed about the problems, innate problems that exist between the East Pakistan and the West Pakistan. Right? The problems that existed between East Pakistan and the West Pakistan. The very first reason, the very first point which we have discussed is the population. Right? So the West Pakistan has only 48%, whereas East Pakistan has 52%. But the revenue expenditure is about 60% to the West, which has lesser population, and 40% to the 52%, right? So that is the first reason. The second one is language. The third one is the language. So when you're talking about the language, they made Urdu only to be the official language, but not the Bengal. That is the second problem. And the fourth problem is ideological differences, right? So whereas West Pakistan, Pakistanis are conservative, whereas East Pakistanis are liberal, right? Because of this, for the first time after Pakistan has been formed, for the first time, based on the universal adult franchise, the elections were held in 1970, right? For the first time after Pakistan was formed, so as per the universal adult franchise, the elections were held. So in that elections, right? In that elections, the political party based on East Pakistan, right, has won with supreme majority, absolute majority, has won with absolute majority, right? So we call that party as Awami League. The party is Awami League, headed by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, right? Headed by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Awami League, right? So they had to transfer the power from the West Pakistan to the East Pakistan. They have to form a government in the East Pakistan. So where the military as well as the government is not willing to do so, that's why they have launched the attack on the people of East Pakistan, right? People of East Pakistan, which has resulted in about 10 million people migrating to the India. About 10 million people. It is also one of the largest mass migrations. So because of the crisis, because of the indiscriminate killing of intelligentsia, or because of the indiscriminate rapes or abuse, right, in the land of East Pakistan, about 10 million people migrated across the borders to India. Now India either has to accept the refugees, right, which is extremely difficult because we are combating poverty at that time. India did not have those many resources to really feed those many mouths, right? Green Revolution was not so prosperous at that time, right? So initially it is just beginning, Green Revolution is just beginning, right? Just started. So because of that, we do not have those many resources to feed about extra 10 million people. We are not able to put food onto our own people, right? So that's why what it thought, instead of taking the refugees, it is better to liberate Bangladesh. But it is an internal issue of the country. It cannot involve, right? It is an internal issue. Tashkent Declaration. We will not enter into your internal disputes, right? We cannot, right? So indirectly what it did, So it has sent the research and analysis wing, and it has trained the resistant force. The resistance force is called as Mukti Bahini. Resistance force is called as Mukti Bahini. Right? Resistance force is called as Mukti Bahini. Right? Suddenly Mukti Bahini started to win, and the resources are to be sent to the Pakistan. Resources, arms, ammunition, the food, everything is sent to be sent from the West Pakistan to the East Pakistan. Right? So during that time, we have blocked both the airways as well as the roadways as well as seaways. And during that time, the only problem India has actually faced is with the China. Right? So if the China involves, we really cannot do anything. Right? Because India do not have the luxury of fighting two countries on different fronts. Right? Sorry, two countries on three different fronts. Right? Because two countries, China and Pakistan, Pakistan from the east and the west, China from the top. Right? From three different fronts we have to fight two countries, right? Which is extremely difficult. So it has waited till winters, where all the mountain passes close and China has no access to India. Right? Because of the snowfall, all the mountain passes will be closed in the winters. Right? No access at all. So it has waited till winters and then entered into the war. Right? So that is Bangladesh Liberation War. And finally, the East Pakistan has become independent in December 6th of 1971. Right? In December 6th of 1971, Bangladesh has become independent country, and India is the first country to recognize Bangladesh as a independent nation. Right? So in 1972, we already know that Shimla Agreement. So immediately after the war, we have gone for the Shimla Agreement. So as per the agreement, there are 2 points which we have to remember. The first one is that the line of control, the ceasefire line is to be called line of control, LOC. Right? Ceasefire line. Ceasefire line. Why ceasefire line? Because when the fight is happening at that particular line, the UN has come and asked for ceasefire. Right? Stop firing across the border. Right? That's why it is called ceasefire line. So ceasefire line is now called line of control. Right? And again, so the most important clause is that, so whatever the disputes that may arise in the future between India and Pakistan is to be dealt, is to be addressed only through the bilateral peaceful negotiations. Is addressed only through peaceful bilateral negotiations. Right? So anything else we don't really entertain. Right? Anything else we don't really entertain. These are the 2 important points of Shimla Agreement of 1972. 1972 Shimla Agreement. Clear? Are you understanding? Is it boring?
No, sir.
Pakka? 100%? Anyone not able to understand? Everyone? Next one, 1974. Right? Operation Smiling Buddha. Yes, Pokhran 1. Operation Smiling Buddha, Pokhran 1. Right? So that has happened, where India has actually tested the nuclear weapons, which was met with so many restrictions or the sanctions from all the countries. Right? Because India is not a signatory of the non-proliferation treaty, but we already know the reason why it has gone for nuclear test. Right? So in 1960s, the China has become the nuclear country, and immediately after that, it has waged a war against India. And during that time, so when the conflict has arose between India and China, the America said that, so don't rely on India for the support. So when you are having a conflict with the nuclear nation, it directly told India, and it is against the interests of America, because India has promised that if there is any country in the world which is being threatened by a nuclear country, so America will be there to support them. So it is against the interests of America. So it has said that when you are having a conflict with China, don't rely on us. Right? And at the same time, in 1971, during the Bangladesh Liberation War, it has seen the true importance of being a nuclear nation as a deterrence. Right? Because, so all the American vessels were actually interfered by the nuclear submarine of Russia. Right? And they said, so if you're going to support in this conflict, if the America is going to support in this conflict, definitely we're going to support India. right? And both being the nuclear nations, it was actually stopped. So India has understood the importance of being a nuclear power for the deterrence, so that to prevent the other person from waging a war. So that's why immediately after the Bangladesh Liberation War, India wanted to develop the nuclear missiles. So that's why it has immediately ordered in 1971 to do the necessary research to conduct the nuclear tests. And in 1974, it has successfully tested the nuclear missiles, and we call it Operation Smiling Buddha. Operation Smiling Buddha, and it was successful. It is very successful, and many sanctions were imposed aftermath, right? And in 1988, right, the two countries have signed an agreement that neither side will attack each other nuclear installations or facilities, right? In 1998, we have agreed together that is the nuclear agreement between India and the Pakistan, that we will not attack any of the nuclear facilities. For that reason, every year, so we will be listing out the nuclear facilities to Pakistan, and Pakistan will be listing the nuclear facilities to India, right? So there is an exchange of information related to the nuclear facilities where they are there. So you will not be attacking the nuclear facilities whatsoever, right? So that is an agreement in 1988, right? And 1991, right? The country signed agreement providing the advance notification of the military exercises, maneuvers and the troop movements, as well as preventing airspace violations and establishing overflight rules. So till 1991, so no Pakistani flight has to move over India. So that's why they could not help East Pakistan, right? Because of the conflict, you cannot move over India. So recently we have seen, right, when the Pakistan helicopter was trying to enter into the Indian airspace, right? We tried to bring it down. You don't know? Few months back, right? It has actually happened, right? So have you ever seen the movie The A-Team? A-Team, Alpha Team, English. Okay, leave it, right? If this is the boundary and you can come till here but not here, right? Immediately after entering the Indian airspace without authorization, you can bring it down. You do not have to give warning as well. While coming near, we will inform them you are entering into the Indian airspace. So if you still enter, we will bring you down without any warning, because that is seen as a threat, right? So the two countries have signed an agreement to provide the advance notification of the military the exercises. That means if the military exercises are happening, the other country should not think that maybe they are being ready for the war, right? So that's why it is a military exercise. The prior notification has to be given, and as well as establishing and prevent the airspace violations. They should not come into our own airspace. We will not be entering into their own airspace. Yaar, after the Pulwama attack, we have gone for the airstrike now, right? So technically we should not enter the airspace of Pakistan, right? They will bring it down. Our Abhinandan, exactly, Abhinandan. Why he was stuck there? The same reason, airspace violations, we entered there, right? So because of these things, okay, you understood this point? And 1992, a joint declaration prohibiting the use of chemical weapons was signed in the New Delhi, right? We already know that, we already discussed in the missile technology that India, just a minute, hello, daddy class lo na, okay. So we already discussed in the missile technology that India has signed the Chemical Convention Treaty as well as the Biological Weapons Convention Treaty. Chemicals Weapon Convention Treaty and Biological Weapons Convention Treaty, and India should not procure, India should not mass produce, India should not distribute, India should not do anything with respect to the chemical and biological weapons. And in 1992, so both India and the Pakistan has jointly declared for the prohibition of the use of chemical weapons in the time of war. So that is the evolution. So we have seen the era of about 80s where the India actually tried to thaw the linkages between India and Pakistan, right? India really wanted to establish good relationship with the Pakistan, right? So we have seen a little thaw in the relationship. Thawing, you know the word thaw? T-H-A-W. Make warm. Thawing. So it wanted to establish warm relationship, right? So initially it was so cold, right? We want to make it a little warm. That is what we call it thawing, right? T-H-A-W-I-N-G, okay? So next one, Operation Meghdut, 1984, the most important one. Operation Meghdut, right? So the Operation Meghdut, so we have already seen, right? So in 1970s, what is the highest battleground? Highest battleground in the world. Highest battleground in the world. What is that? What is the name of it? It is in India, by the way, Siachen Glacier. Right? It is Siachen Glacier. That is the highest peak. Right? So that is the highest battleground in the world. Right? Siachen Glacier. And Operation Meghdut is to capture the Siachen Glacier. Right? Initially, in 1970s and 1980s, so because the Pakistan wanted its claim on Siachen Glacier, it sent many people for expeditions to the Siachen Glacier. Right? If many Pakistani people are going there and planting the Pakistan flag there on the Siachen Glacier, so ultimately it can claim that is my own territory, and Siachen Glacier is more accessible from Pakistan as well as Aksai Chin. Siachen Glacier is more accessible from Pakistan and Aksai Chin. So slowly what they did, they have occupied the territory, right? They have occupied they tried to occupy the Aksai Chin, Siachen Glacier. They tried to occupy the Siachen Glacier, where we have countered it, and that operation is called Operation Meghdut. That was a very interesting story. So Operation Meghdut, right? When the Pakistan actually tried to infiltrate the people, about 150 people, to the Siachen Glacier and occupy the high ground, right? So they ordered the jackets, right? The ice jackets will be there, right? Where the poles they will be using, right? Those kind of jackets they have ordered, but the Arctic jackets, right? They have ordered from one company, and India was a regular customer to that company. Because of that, we got to know the Pakistan is ordering that, and because of that, we got to know that the Pakistan is actually ready for it. And at that time, immediately after knowing that information, so we have ordered for 300 jackets, which delayed the manufacturing of Pakistani jackets. So we were ready with 300 people on walk, right? Immediately after that, they have got the jackets. They were like, okay, the Pakistan Indian troops are coming, and Indian troops had to walk to the Siachen Glacier. It had to walk because if it is an airdrop, the Pakistan will get to know, right? If it is an airdrop, the plane is coming, something is coming in radar. So the Pakistan will get to know in the radar that something is moving towards the Siachen Glacier. So to prevent that, everyone walked to the Siachen Glacier. There are a few drops when it is nearing to the war. A few airdrops when it is nearing to the war, and because of this we were successful in the Operation Meghdut, right? And we have captured Siachen Glacier, right? Okay. So importance of the Siachen Glacier. Importance of the Siachen Glacier. So it demarcates Central Asia from the Indian subcontinent. So this is the high peak which is actually separating the Indian subcontinent from the Central Asia, right? And separating Pakistan from China as well, right? So that is the reason why the Pakistan and China doesn't have a proper connecting link, right? Even though we have the China-Pakistan economic corridor, right? But Aksai Chin is a really in the tri-junction between Pakistan, China and India. That's why it is of high strategical importance. And Saltoro Ridge of the Siachen Glacier serves as a divide that prevents the direct linking of Pakistan occupied Kashmir with the China. So there is a ridge. There is a ridge which is actually preventing the connect between China and Pakistan, right? Siachen Glacier, of the Siachen Glacier. That's why it is of higher greater importance, right? Siachen also serves as watchtower for India to keep deep watch on the Gilgit and Baltistan areas. This is the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, Gilgit Baltistan, right? That is the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So in the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, we have it like this, right? This is the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. This is the entire Kashmir. In this Pakistan occupied Kashmir, this is Gilgit Baltistan. This is Azad Kashmir, right? This is Gilgit Baltistan. This is Azad Kashmir. These are the two territories in the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, right? So it is acting as a watchtower here. It is acting as a watchtower here, where it has a clear view towards the Gilgit because of the higher grounds, right? Always the person with the higher grounds will have greater strategical importance, right, or advantage. So that's why it is acting as a watchtower. And if Pakistan gets the location advantage in the Siachen, it would become a big threat, because the Aksai Chin is there itself, where the China can access through the Siachen to the Pakistan. They have a direct connect. So that's why it is of greater importance. What is the operation name? Meghdoot. Operation Meghdoot. Right? Yes. Right? So this is the territory of Pakistan occupied Kashmir, which was ceded to the China. That is Indian territory ceded by Pakistan to China, right? That is the territory. And this is the Siachen glacier. This is the Siachen glacier, right? This is the Siachen glacier. This is Aksai Chin. If the Siachen glacier is occupied, there is a direct connect to the Pakistan, right? This is Siachen glacier, right? This is Siachen glacier, right? So you can directly connect Aksai Chin region to the Pakistan. This is Azad Kashmir, this is Gilgit Baltistan, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, right? That is how they can combat India, right? They have to be together, because not just for the trade. So if they connect the transit between the two regions, so they can support the Pakistan with anything, right? Where? No, we have a valley over here. We have a valley over here which is extremely difficult to access. See, we have the Karakoram ranges over here. Even they have seeded, we have the Karakoram ranges over here, which only they can access through the mountain passes, right? So it is extremely difficult. So until they get hold on Siachen glacier, they can directly put pressure on India, right? So please remember the map. So next one, 1998, Pokhran 2, right? Pokhran 2, right? India has detonated 5 weapons. In the last class also we have discussed, right? So after, who is the leader name? President, Prime Minister of India? Huh? Thank you. After Atal Bihari Vajpayee has come to the power, he has ordered for the development of the nuclear weapons, right? Because India wanted to be a nuclear nation. It wanted to say the world that we are a nuclear nation, but with a peaceful intention, right? So that's why they have detonated the nuclear devices, both nuclear fusion as well as the nuclear fission, right? Both fission, initially the fission, later the fusion, right? In that way they had tested and the test results. And remember, there is one point I forgot to tell you, and India has promised that it is never going to test any nuclear weapon because it has got all the data needed. Because it has got all the data needed on the nuclear test, that's why he said, so India doesn't need to perform any other nuclear tests, right? Yes, so that's why India hasn't tested till now any nuclear weapon, right? It is just developing, but for the minimum deterrence. Tested. Not with the nuclear material. Right? So they are capable of carrying the nuclear material, but with the nuclear material you will not test the missile. Right? You do not have to create the huge crater there. Right? So 1999, Lahore Declaration. Right? The next one, Lahore Declaration. So immediately after the nuclear missile was actually tested, nuclear material was actually tested, right? So now we have to make sure that the two countries were actually on the lines of friendship, right? Because immediately in 1998, the Pakistan also became a nuclear nation. Immediately after India has tested the nuclear material, even the Pakistan tested and it has become a nuclear nation. So because of this, now both the countries have an objective, or both the countries have come together to affirm their commitment to the Shimla Accords and agree to undertake a number of confidence building measures. We call them confidence building measures, right? That means you will increase the movement, trade and transit, right? So, or the incentives that you may give, right? So all these things are nothing but the confidence building measures, or to reduce the duties. All these are confidence building measures. They have ascertained that they will go for the confidence building measures in that. So we already discussed about the bus diplomacy, where Atal Bihari Vajpayee has told the Nawaz Sharif that I will be coming to Lahore on bus, right? So from that time, so the bus travel between India and Pakistan has actually started, right? But so even though Nawaz Sharif was there, but the military was actually under the control of Musharraf, General Pervez Musharraf, where without the knowledge of the Nawaz Sharif, Pervez Musharraf has intriguing a plan to attack India, right? So the bus service is from Delhi to Lahore, and that has resulted in 1999 Kargil War. 1999 Kargil War, where many people, the same like Kashmiris, they dressed up like one and they entered into Kashmir and they occupied the strategic positions. They occupied strategic positions during the time where it is the no man's land, during the winters. It is a no man's land, right? During that time, the Pakistanis have occupied the territory, the peaks, right? So the conflict is believed to be orchestrated by the then Pakistani chief Pervez Musharraf without the knowledge of Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, right? So it began with the infiltration of both Pakistani troops and the terrorists in the Indian territory, okay? And the infiltrators positioned themselves in key locations that gave them strategic advantage during the start of the conflict. And successfully, because of Operation Vijay, even though there are many casualties on the Indian side, we have won the war, right? That is Operation Vijay, and I have put a separate note. There are two Operation Vijays. The first Vijay is in 61. First Operation Vijay is in 1961, right? So that is to capture Goa, Daman and Diu and Anjadiva Islands in 1961 from the French, right? That is to capture that is the first Operation Vijay, and the second Operation Vijay is Kargil War. Second operation is Kargil War. Operation Vijay is Kargil War, and to commemorate the win and to respect the people who lost their lives in the Kargil War, we celebrate Vijay Divas, right? We celebrate Vijay Divas, right? So the army declared the mission successful on July 26, 1999. Since then, the day is celebrated as Kargil Vijay Divas, right? Kargil Vijay Divas. Please do remember. But the victory has come at a high price. There are many casualties on the Indian side compared to that of Pakistan, right? Because of the key locations. And we already discussed that we do not have the strategic advantage of using the GPS for the air strikes, right? We do not have the satellites, right? We do not have any information. So that's why immediately after the Kargil War, we have started to develop the IRNSS satellites, navigation satellites, right? Navigation satellites, and also we have developed the spy satellites as well, right? So which has helped very much. Next one, 2003 ceasefire agreement, right? This is one of the important features between the India and Pakistan. In 2003, we have ceasefire agreement. That is the reason why in the news you hear about ceasefire violations, right? So when there is a firing between India and the Pakistan, you frequently hear in the news there has been a ceasefire violation by the Pakistan across the line of control, right? Why ceasefire violation? Because as per the 2003, so we have made sure there will not be cross-border firing. There will not be cross-border firing. So if some starts it, it is called ceasefire violations, right? It is called ceasefire violation. So the Lahore declarations started the bus service, and the declaration proposed several measures, confidence building measures. Among the confidence building measures, so in 2003 we have gone for the ceasefire violation, right? After the Musharraf calls for the ceasefire along the line of control in the United Nations General Assembly meeting, the two countries reached an agreement to cool the tensions and the cease hostilities across the de facto border, right? So we have stopped over there after UN General Assembly meeting. Okay, that is ceasefire agreement that has happened in 2003. Ceasefire agreement happened in 2003. 26/11, right? So recently we have gone for the commemoration, right? November 26th. What happened? Taj attacks, right? 26/11, right? So that is one of the worst terroristic attacks in the history of India, right? Where indiscriminately killed more than 100 people, right? And entire Mumbai has come to the seas, right? Recently a web series also was released on the Taj attacks. I don't know how many of you have watched it, even I didn't watch it, alright? So it is clearly talking about the perceptions of the real life experiences of the people who survived the Taj incident, right? So that was made as a web series. Please watch it, right? About more than 160 people were killed in these attacks, and the only the better side of the Taj is the Qasab being captured. If the Qasab hadn't been captured, it would have been extremely difficult for India to convince the Pakistan that it is a state-sponsored terrorism, that your people are actually coming into the Indian territory. Or else the Pakistan would have said that is an internal issue of India. We don't have to do anything with it. So because the Qasab has been captured alive, right? We got so much of information from that, and we were able to put the pressure on the Pakistan, right? So that is 26/11 Taj attacks, right? 2012 he was hung, right? In 2012 he was hung. In 2014, right? As for the confidence building measures, the Pakistan has released about 151 Indian fishermen to India, right? So recently we have seen that, right? So the Indian fishermen were actually killed by the Pakistan, right? Killed by Pakistan because they entered into the maritime boundary of the Pakistan. So because of the violations, right, there were many arrests across the maritime border. The Indian fishermen being arrested by the Pakistan and the Pakistani fishermen arrested by India. So as a confidence building measures during the time of independence or Republic Day, so we will be exchanging the prisoners, right? So that is one of the confidence building measures, right? And the same point we are going to discuss in Sri Lanka again, right? The exchange of fishermen, because fishermen issue is a serious issue when it comes to Sri Lanka, right? The next one in 2019 Pulwama attack, right? You all know about the Pulwama attack, right? So these are the different terroristic attacks in India over the past few years, right? These are the terroristic attacks, and this is important for internal security subject as well, terrorism, internal security, right? In that subject also we will be discussing about the terroristic attacks, right? Internal security, okay, IS. So these things happened after the Pulwama attack. We have gone for the Balakot airstrike, right? Immediately after the Balakot airstrike, when the Pakistan had gone for the airstrike against India, right? So Abhinandan, right, was actually captured during that time when Indian aircraft was actually shot down, right? And immediately after 3 days, because of the immense pressure from the international bodies that this conflict has to be stopped, so the Abhinandan has been returned to India, right? And immediately after the Pulwama attack, the very first thing which we did is the withdrawal of the MFN status, right? MFN is nothing but most favored nation status. It is very important. All right, most favored nation status. So immediately after the Pulwama attack, we have withdrawn the MFN status, most favored nation status. So the most favored nation status is actually given to the countries on reciprocal basis. So who follows the world as per the World Trade Organization? So they will have the lesser duties, right? So or the free duties, right? So the trade between the both the countries would actually good as a if you are giving MFN status to one country. And when it comes to MFN status, India has given MFN status to Pakistan, but never the Pakistan gave it to India. Right? The Pakistan did not give most favored nation status to India because Pakistan said that so most favored nation is not really good because we have not the tariff barriers but the non-tariff barriers. India has many non-tariff barriers because of which even if we give the MFN status it is not good for Pakistan, so that's why we will not give. But we have given the most favored nation status to Pakistan. So that's why immediately after withdrawal, the Pakistan has actually raised this point on the international forum. They are saying that the Pakistan has withdrawn. But because the Pakistan never gave MFN status, so it is up to the wish of India to withdraw the MFN status. Right? So if the other is not withdrawing, so we cannot because we both have given the MFN status and MFN status has to be given mutually, reciprocal basis. Right? That is MFN status. And immediately the parliament has adopted the resolution levying about 200% duty on the Pakistani products, right? On the Pakistani products. Recently the Supreme Court has given a judgment on this issue. How many of you have seen? I don't know. You studied? Recent judgment.
Doubling the cost of the
Recently the court has given the judgment because about 13 traders or 17 traders went to the High Court saying that so the duties are not to be imposed, Indian traders, because those were imported on the day of attack, right? So at that time the resolution was not immediately taken. So that's why it is a disadvantage for the traders. So that's why they went to the court and the court has given the verdict that only after the notification came out, only those goods were to be levied about 200% duties, not the ones which has come before, right? In that way Indian traders have got the advantage. And the court has decided that the 200% of the duties will not be levied on the products which have come before attack, before the Pulwama attack, right, before the order. Okay? So that is Pulwama. The next issue is the Sir Creek issue, right? We discussed about Sir Creek issue. Time up or what? No, 2 minutes is there, 2-3 minutes, 3 minutes, right? We'll finish the Sir Creek issue because we already discussed it. Right, we discussed about the Talweg doctrine, right? So as for the Sir Creek issue, this is the Sir Creek. So that is the territory between the Sindh, Pakistan, Sindh as well as Gujarat here, right? Run of Kutch. So there is a small creek, there is a small lane, right? So we can use it for the navigation purposes. So as per the international law, right? So if there is, this is called Talweg. If there are any navigable waters, the territory has to be demarcated in such a way that has to be the mid of this channel, right? Because the navigation is a right, is a basic right for both the territories, right? Navigation has to be the right of both the territories, but initially it was divided like this, where most of the strategic advantage is gone to the Pakistan but not India, right? So we have to follow the Talweg doctrine, so we are following the Talweg doctrine where the Pakistan will be losing so much of the territory. Huh? No, it is not India actually, it is Pakistan. Sorry, just a minute. I'll erase this. Initially somewhere I have read the same thing, but later when I was reading recently, so most of the territory, so initially it was divided like this, where the water bodies were under the control of Pakistan, where the other territory is in India. right? So when it is divided as per the Talbot doctrine, the Pakistan will be losing the more area. That's why it is not accepting. That's why it is not accepting. Yes? Same thing I told.
Yeah.
Same thing I told. Huh? Okay. No. Maybe the last year when I told, I said it wrong. Last year I told something wrong, I guess. Last year also I have explained the same thing. Last year I said it wrong. This year I corrected it. Yeah, because your memory is not that great as our baby. Yeah, so that's why. Alright, so that is Talbot doctrine, that is Sir Creek issue between India and the Pakistan. There are many other issues. Next class. Okay? Clear? Any queries so far?